Nigeria is no doubt facing a broadening of rising poverty, which the current administration has set a goal of lifting 100 million citizens from the stagnation in a decade. This, among other issues, will be the focus of deliberations at the forthcoming 27th Nigerian Economic Summit, with the theme Securing Our Future, the Fairest Urgency of Now. This year's edition of the summit will assess the current state of the economy, Nigeria's economic vulnerabilities that perpetuate regression, poor performance, and the risk associated with such susceptibilities, as well as a means of fostering a people-centered approach that will rethink Nigeria's economic, social, political, and governance strategies, which should be targeted at reversing emerging trends and shaping a secure future of inclusive and sustainable growth. The summit, which will be retained the hybrid format adopted in 2020, will have President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Senate President Dr. Ahmed Lawan, and Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, amongst other speakers expected at the event. Well, joining me live to bring us up to speed with what we should expect as we move into that week, NES 27. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mr. Laoye Jaiyeola. Good afternoon, Mr. Jaiyeola. It's good to see you.
Good afternoon, Tolu. Nice for having me.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of work is being done, and let's quickly have you for this time. The summit starts next week, and as part of the focus of this summit is assessing the current state of the economy and, of course, vulnerabilities that affect all of this. Now, can you take us through the focus this year before we go into some more details?
Thank you very much again. The focus of this year is to, and you can get that from the theme, which is how to secure our future. And if you look at the trend of our discussion in the last years, our focus more is about, look, we may have troubles now, but our future will be much more challenging unless we begin to address key issues to be able to mitigate that. That's why the focus is, look, you know what you are seeing now might be a tight split if you don't deal with certain things. I'll give you an instance. Currently, we're battling with unemployment. The data is not good. Currently, we're battling with poverty. Mr. President, he said, look, give me a plan that will take 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years. Currently, we're battling with monetary instability. Currently, we're battling with high inflation. And all of those challenges, we're not seeing enough investment, whether they be local or they be foreign. Now, but those are tight split. Now, added to that has been the issue of human security and fiscal security. And food is not enough. People are now not able to go back to their farm. In recent time, if you look at Nigeria imports, you realize that oil and importation of food are a major chunk of what we're doing. If you then look at our population, and it's projected to be about 450 in the year 2050, making us the third most populous nation. If you don't begin to deal with issues that will solve those problems, then we'll feel it's a problem. So that's why we're saying, you know what, we need to secure our future. And some people have asked us, I said, you're not talking about securing now. But again, when people only look at the now, they lose it when the future comes. It is the things you do in the now affect the kind of future you get for yourself. That's why we're saying, look, we need to work now so that this democratic dividend we have, democratic advantage we have, will turn into the dividend. And we have all it takes to make it a dividend if we take the right decisions and if we take the right steps now. That's why we're turning everybody's attention to it, that look, there's urgency now. And therefore, at the summit, focus will be on five key pillars. Pillar number one is to look at how do we ensure a high and sustained growth. I mean, it's not enough that it is high one week. How do we sustain it? But again, as a nation, we've experienced we've had sustained GDP growth, but then our left people behind, which is why the second pillar, we look at the quality of life of the people. Look, I tell people, Nigeria is an endowed nation. We have tremendous resources. But however, the best resources we have in Nigeria itself as people. Our people are wonderful. And you look at wherever we go out there in the world, we do well. The question is that how can doing well all over the world, what are we doing to make ourselves do well in a nation, Nigeria? And therefore, emphasis should be on the quality of life of people in terms of our health. I mean, the pandemic revealed our underbelly, the fact that we're not doing well in health. How do we deal with education? How do we get out of school people back to school? How do we deal with the issue of gender equality? I mean, there's no gainsaying. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Because one of the things that if women go to school early enough, we will deal with our population matter. So these are issues we're looking at. How do I ensure that there's equal opportunity for people? So that's quality of life. The quality of life that our people live, dealing with infant mortality rate and all of those things, so that we can have longer life and be healthy. Then we will look at national security. Now, national security, the discussion has been on and about, look, how do we effectively secure our nation? And I'm glad that even at the presidency, there's a realization that we need security both at the federal level, we need at state level, we even need at community level. How do we secure our people appropriately? Again, we then look at the issue of political economy. Now, all of these things, regardless of the economic policies you have in place, unless the political environment is right to encourage people to grow, you won't have it. And I give you a good instance. Currently, there's been discussion as to how do we share revenue, what do we do? And I've asked this question: what is our philosophy about? Are we about just sharing resources, or we're giving everybody, every nation, every subnational, every nation, the ability to create wealth? What's the philosophy around that? So when we talk around about political economy, you know that the NES will shy away from political issues. But believe you me, if you don't deal about the philosophy that underpins us, that binds the way we work, the economy environment itself will not be as robust and as good as we wanted. So there'll be a discussion on it. Then there'll be the last pillar we have will be about digital transformation. We all know that, look, we are left behind. I listened to some of the things before this we were talking about the trades, how about 14 nations of the world account, about 14, 15 nations of the world account for 50%, 80% of all world trade. What trade are we doing? So we know we are left behind, but how can we leverage on digital transformation and revolution that we are doing to help our people? We are beginning to have young and bright unicorns available out there. But how do we leverage it around health? How do we leverage it around education? How do we use technology to leapfrog and get Nigeria to those areas that we're going to be? So let's go with these are the 5 pillars that we've been concentrating on. Of course, we're not going to leave behind the issue of implementation, because look, Nigeria is not being rich of policies. We know what policies to be done. We know how good they are. But when we come to implementation, we fall short. And the way the summit is not only a discussion with only the federal, the state governors are involved, because it is clear to us that resources and people live at the sub-region. And unless and until we begin to look at things as a federation, we're not going to get the desired truth that we're looking for. So I'll stop there and I'll take all questions. Thank you.
All right, good, very brilliant overview there, CEO. But let's start with digital transformation, which is one of the focus, and you talked about that too. What are the preparations to hasten the transition of the country? We're still battling with internet connectivity, especially in rural areas. What sort of conversations do you really think we need to be having along that line to help strengthen that sector?
Well, again, it is very important to know that government, unfortunately, are not made to be players of labor. The role of government is to provide the enabling environment for private capital to roll in there. And if you look at what the national, the plan about rollout of even broadband that divided the nation into 6 areas so that we can have all these rollout done. That's one aspect from the Ministry of Communication. But all of these need to work together. There are plurality of policies that comes out there. But unfortunately, the coordination of those policies are things that don't work. So at one breath, you were saying, go and create rollback and rollout. Another breath, you were seeing instances where other policies around taxation, around official taxation, around even regulatory agencies being hard on this private sector and forbidding them from rolling out. So one bread I want to roll out, another bread we don't have even enough foreign exchange in terms of the amount we require to import the things we need to import. Look, so how do we synchronize? How do we see more of private and monetary policy conversation and trade conversation work together? I believe in me, these are possible. I mean, I always remember the days of going to queue up at night before we get a land. I recall a push at the NESD to come around the GSM revolution. But when the GSM rule was hard, and we saw the setup of the Nigerian Communication Commission, the intention was not to just look at that. We're supposed to look at the entire value chain. And so one of the discussions were, let's take back to a deep value chain analysis. It does appear that once we start up and we begin to make some money somewhere, we get carried away. So we're not having deep value chain. Look, discussions and investment. We are a nation that has a very high penetration of mobile lines and people are using it. But to what extent have we grown the industry around, even the mobile line, productions of land, all those things around the value chain? We haven't done it. It's the same thing. You can spread it to agriculture. If you look at agriculture accounts for about 28% of our GDP. In that 28%, crop production alone is 90%. Now, what are we doing towards the value chain so that we can add value to our crop production so that we're not made to suffer the vagaries of commodity price changes, which we go through from time to time. Everybody worries. Take oil, for instance. Oil is a major earner. Crude oil is the major earner for government. But believe you me, if you do value addition, don't worry. Saudi Arabia, yeah, they worry about the price of crude oil, but because they've been able to extract all the value from crude oil production, they will make money elsewhere. And that's why I want to commend some of the work that is going on with the likes of Dangote and Group to create a petrochemical industry so that we can have significant backward integration. So the petrochemical industry will enjoy, the plastic industry will enjoy. So these are all the discussions we're going to look at. So we say Nigeria needs to do value addition. And to do value addition, we need to make our environment good enough for private capital and public capital to come in. We need to begin to review some of our policies and ensure above all that both fiscal policy and monetary policies are talking together. I think major challenge now is the very, very uncoordinated nature of our policies and the actions. And sometimes they flip-flop.
The uncoordinated approach and the fiscal side and the monetary side must always synergize if we are to achieve that inclusive growth that we expect. Now, let's talk a little bit about security. Though I know you're not a security expert, but you obviously know that this is a major pullback for investors who are willing to migrate to this part of the world. Nigeria's PR in the economic world has been in doldrums. Well, with all of the issues that we face at the moment, what are you thinking? What are the quick wins for government with regards to security issues as we continue to grapple with this, Mr. Jaiyeola?
Well, again, security, but again, I give it that security, I mean, in terms of preserving the nation and defending us against external aggression, it must and should remain the work of the federal government. But again, there is a need to secure ourselves in our communities. We need to secure ourselves in our state. So we need to begin to look at the various dimensions of security. So, and that talks about physical security. But beyond that, I tell people that some of the problems of security are economically related. And I give you an instance. As a young boy growing up, I know the size of, I know what used to be the size of Lake Chad. Today, that Lake Chad that used to provide an economic base for a number of people, as much as 15 to 30 million people, is just about a few percentage of what it used to be. So people are not farming well. People are not having jobs to do. In addition, as a result of climate impact. So our security challenge in Nigeria is multidimensional. But more importantly, what I have always told people is that we need to rebuild trust and confidence in the Nigerian citizenry. You know, Most of the challenges we have today that has exacerbated this security matter is because some people have a sense of lack of inclusion in Nigeria. Some people have a sense of, not accountability. But you see, I think we need for us to effectively secure Nigeria, we need to begin to make people believe in Nigeria. And that's the responsibility of the government. You need to make us look. I mean, we talk about lack of trust, but we need to make ourselves trustworthy. You see, people don't believe that their life matter in Nigeria, and they will begin to treat the life of people. The life of people should matter. People should not die because they cannot have access to health. People should not be knocked off on the hold anyhow. Some of the things you saw about this time last year, and again, I listened to your pre-count of this when you're talking about the youth just being killed and murdered anyway. The life of our people should matter. Those children alone will go a long way. I mean, I commend government. I will get buying a lot of arms and ammunition to be able to reward away all the people that are working in the north and a few other things. But believe you me, Nigerians should most first have a sense of belonging. When we make people feel and they belong, we can work together. I grew up in a Lagos that didn't have wells. And I tell you, today we have wells. All of us have walled ourselves in as criminals. But in those days, you just need two coaches to demarcate your land from the land of the people. You knew your neighbor. You knew who came to your street. Today we don't even know our neighbors. And we all spend money securing ourselves. And when these people attack, we are left unprotected. How can we not be a brother together? How do we live together as a community again? It's an absence of trust, absence of sense of belonging that has exacerbated these things in this country. And we need to go back there. Whatever decisions we take, whether we say have local policing, have state policing, have federal government police, have rangers to look at our large desert and our large areas, expanse area, we need to build trust back into this community. It is important.
See, before I let you go, let's look at implementation of all of the decisions. Maybe like a communique that will be out of this. How well do we expect that you push this? Because it's not just coming up with these resolutions, but following up that they are properly implemented.
Well, you know that part of the things we do at the NESG is beyond the summit.
Yeah.
Apart from the summit, we have roundtables and policy commissions that take on these issues and push them year on year until they get done. Now, the pace of implementation is usually very low, sometimes very frustrating. But does government adopt it? You agree with me that I will tell you what all the things we've said in the last 2 years have been adopted in the national development plan that is being worked on for the next 5 years. But how are we going to implement it? So adopting is one thing, implementing is another thing. But again, you agree with me that sometimes the lack of adequate resources could be a barrier, which is why we're saying, you know what, there's a way you can deal with it. So on our part as NESG, we stick at it. I mean, we've been involved in instances where things we talk about takes 10 years before they come to fruition, but we have a policy commission where we have many Nigerians that have volunteered. They do it on a pro bono basis. They take on engagement with the respective ministry and departments and agencies of government to ensure that this is the light of the day. And we again emphasize it through our various researches and our releases that we do from time to time. So the summit, when we say Tom is a talk show, well, we need to judge all that war. We talk there, but we take in all the issues that have been agreed. And through our partner, it is presented to FED for adoption. We engage the state government through the work we have with the NESG and the Nigerian Government Forum to ensure implementation. We engage the National Assembly through what we call NASMA, it's called National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable. We even have one now that we set up with the State Assembly. So there is an all-round the clock engagement. Do we see an adoption and implementation? Not as much as we want to see at all, because we are the NESG sometimes tell ourselves, if only 30% of these policies are implemented, we'll have gone far beyond that by that days. But again, It's not enough to say government is not implemented. This is why I always make a clarion call to all the Nigerian citizens. I call on my private sector friends. I call on civil society and the people of the press. All of us must get our hands on the deck to ensure that we are chasing implementation. The government is saying that they're going to do something, they have not done it. Let's speak up. If they need help, let's come around and say we'll help them. But you know what? This nation requires everybody's effort. And one of the things I've been pushing in last time is that the elite need to come together and define what exactly what must we have consensus about that we must have to build this nation. Because the truth of the matter is that it's all in our hand. Government must show the lead, but the citizenry must be able to be there to push, to get involved, make sure things are done. So we do it all year round. We don't give up. It's frustrating, I must tell you, but we never give up.
Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mr. Laoye Jaiyeola, thank you very much for joining us on the show this afternoon and making more sense of what you should expect as we move into the new week for the conference.